BNI. It is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And in the two regions, stretching from Mebane all the way to Wilmington, we've got about 42 chapters now. Launched one the other day in Cre8. Got 42 chapters now. Each week, our members' goal is to help somebody else make money, grow their business. Our local small business success story today is Scott Pechnick with Cre8 Content Services in Wilmington. He's the president of CCO4 Rainmakers. They meet Wednesdays at 8:45 in the morning at Life Point Church in Wilmington. If you're in that area on a Wednesday morning, please drop in, meet some very fun professionals. Scott, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you, sir?
Good. Glad to have you. So, folks, we're going to be talking a lot about growing a digital marketing business. We're going to talk about some competitive marksmanship skills that one of us has on the show here. It's not me. Let me not scare anybody with that. All right, Scott. Cre8 Content Services is CRE and the number 8. I love it. How did you come about? How did that come about?
I really honestly came about that in terms of I've always it sounds strange, but I've always liked the number 8 as kind of an infinity sign, right? Which kind of to me symbolized the never ending quest to always grow within your business, within your marketing, and so forth. Slap the word and the number together, and next thing you know, that was it. So yeah.
I was not aware of the infinity part of the number 8 until my youngest son Cameron and daughter-in-law Jen got married a couple of years ago. And fortunately for them, April 8th fell on a Saturday. The venue they wanted was available. So they'd planned this out for almost 7 months, I think. And so if you lay the 8 down, it's the infinity and all that. I did not know that. So I get it. What were some of the runner-up names for you if that was not available?
The business really start when the business first started. I went through several different iterations. I wanted something that certainly was going to stand out. If you do your average search for digital marketing agency near me, right, you'll see that a lot of these agencies have accelerate and perform and all of these adjectives and adverbs and so forth. And in my mind, they all kind of just lump together. To a degree. So I wanted something that was a bit different, that would certainly stand out. I really wasn't going to utilize my last name because, as we were talking about earlier, that's usually often mispronounced, right? So I didn't really want to go there. But, I settled upon Cre8 Services. And you'll notice one thing in the logo, too, that a lot of people don't pick up on is the font that Content Services is in. It's kind of a typewriter font, right? And the reason for that is it's a bit of a throwback to obviously old school typewriters, which a lot of people have never even seen. However, that really symbolizes the focus in our business of generating content, right? There's a saying that content is king online from a digital marketing perspective, and I fully agree. Which again, so that's kind of why that font is a bit more in the typewriter font, but yeah, it's our business is really content focused. It's SEO focused. It's delivering the right messaging to the right people at the right time. Right. There's a difference between throwing content out there and throwing darts at a board as opposed to actually understanding who your customer is. And what their aspirations, what their goals, what their fears, things like that. If you craft that content along their buying journey, right, you can actually rise in search and like we always say, that's how you maximize your online visibility. So that's short story behind it.
All right. So before we get to the story behind Cre8 Content Services, let's give our first tip of the day to people watching and listening. I think I'm not alone in this. I'm about to give you a couple scenarios. I'm not alone in this. So the first thing that drives me nuts is a door magnet with about 18 colors and small font that looks great on a desktop. It's like, man, people are going to call us, and you can't even read it at the stoplight. Okay. So we'll get to that second. Here's the one that drives me nuts, Scott. is you'll see a company name and A, you can't pronounce it, and B, don't know what it means. But then when you go on their website, the history of the name is, oh, this is a Latin word for the 16 things we believe in.
Right.
Give people, let's give a couple of tips on when you're thinking about a name, what should you rule out and what should you really want to accomplish with the name itself?
Oh, listen, call me a bit old school, but keep it kiss, right?
Yep.
Keep it simple, stupid. If don't overcomplicate things. If you're a small business and you do X, well, make it very simple that
Yeah.
someone can see your logo, can see your business name, whatever it is, and pick up that, hey, that's what you do. So don't try to get, coming from a marketing agency, this is going to sound weird, but don't try and get too creative, because depending on the business, you might miss customers that way. Listen, if you're a plumbing company, for example, right? When do people need a plumbing company, right? Primarily when either they need to get something installed, but more importantly, when something needs to get fixed, right? So make it easy for them to link your name, your logo to what it is that you do. Don't overcomplicate it. That would be my tip. Get creative, make it look great. Utilize color, but don't stay away from the Latin words that mean 16 things.
When I see those, man, it just drives me nuts, and that's why I think I'm one of the few people that I want my superpower to be. I want to be invisible because I want to sit in that meeting when somebody signed off on that and said this is the greatest company name ever, and it drives me nuts. Uh, so, but
Yeah.
something. Go ahead.
No, when that happens, it's more of an aspirational thing versus a
Mhm.
reality thing,
Yep.
right? The aspiration is, hey, we want this to be a household name that's
Mhm.
that's going to reverberate around the world, right? And there's nothing wrong with that thought, but at the end of the day, how you get to that is by getting calls, bookings, leads,
Yep.
things like that as a business, right? And so that's where you need to make it very simple that, hey, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's how you contact us,
Yes,
right?
the goal is not to get an annual award for the coolest logo or name. The goal is to get your phone ringing every day, folks. So plumber on time is wonderful because people know exactly what you do. I need to call a plumber. Something big happened. Let me call this because I saw that name. So going back to bad names, and then we'll move on. For the folks that are younger than probably maybe even younger than you, Scott, you may know this. There was a deodorant back in the 70s, I think the 80s, and it was literally, psst. It was the letter P with three S's and a T. That was the name of the deodorant. And they went out of business because nobody went in the store and went up to the sales clerk and said, "Excuse me, sir, do you have psst?" So don't back to your point, do not overthink this. It's not, if I start a company called Manning Services, do you know what I do? No, so
100% not.
don't overthink it. So, anyways, I'm glad. Thank you for that first tip.
Very
All
welcome.
right, so most of your background in the corporate world is in marketing.
That's correct.
This is your first venue as a business owner, first venture as a business owner.
That is correct. I started in the ad agency business before the internet, which makes me sound super super old. I remember when cell phones were about as
Yeah.
big as a brick,
Yeah.
and the internet was not a thing. And got out of it right out of college. In the days of TV spots, cable, newspaper, billboards, out of home stuff. And then as time went on, and around 2010 was 2009, 2010, was really when, in my experience, the digital world started evolving and so forth. So I hopped on that bandwagon, remained in the agency world, just on the digital side of things, primarily working with, for years and years and years, small businesses, and continued that through a few years ago. After that, I went on for a few years. I went on to the inside as a marketing director for a company. But my passion was always for small business owners, right? Because they're the people out there making it happen every day. They're waking up with goals and problems to solve, and all of these different moving parts that they're having to do day in and day out, and helping that person, right? Helping those people really succeed and get the momentum, right, from a digital marketing standpoint, so that they're found. The problem for small business owners these days is that it's you're not the only person that does what you do. Going back to that plumber, you're not the only plumber in town. You're not the only roofing company in town. You're not the only real estate agent in town. So how do you get found when someone's searching? I mean, Mike, as well
Yep.
as I do, you need something, you're grabbing your phone, right? You're jumping on your laptop and you're doing kind of a near me type search or location based search. And if you're not coming up, you're not getting the call, you're not getting the booking, you're not getting the lead, which also means you're not getting the revenue. That's why I started Cre8 Content Services. I'd been in it long enough. I saw what worked. I saw what I'd change. I saw, sometimes you learn what you believe is the right way to do something, and started that company.
Right. Small business ownership is not for the faint of heart. So
Yeah.
talk me back to the day or the week or the month that you really started talking about going out on your own, and what were some of the pros and cons?
I think when I really started, it kind of gets to a point, and I'm in my mid 40s, right? So I've been around long enough to see different things and see how things are done in different places. And I think it gets to a point too where you just kind of come to the realization that, hey, you know what? I love what I do, but I can do it better,
Mm.
right? And I want to do it my way, right? I want to bring what I specifically can only bring to the table. And so that's kind of why I started it. And obviously, as when you're starting a business, it's kind of like you're jumping off a cliff, right? You just say, I remember saying to myself one day, like, all right, well, let's see how this goes. We're jumping in, and of course, it's there's stressors along the way, right? How are you going to start getting your name out there? How are you going to start acquiring the types of contacts and leads that you need as a business to start revenue generating, right? How are you going to limit expenses? All of these things, you're constantly thinking about, and you'll never stop thinking about,
Mm.
right? As far as I'm concerned, but to a new business owner, those are all new things, right?
Yeah.
Those are all new thoughts that can keep you up at night. And there's plenty of nights where you wake up at 2 o'clock in the
Oh,
morning
yeah.
and you're like, hey, I got to really focus on this, or I have to do this, or you're concerned about X.
Yeah.
So does that go away? No, and I hope it doesn't, because if it did, then you're not pushing forward. You're not pushing higher.
Yeah, you're the last line of defense, so there's no one else to call when you're the business owner, and it helps you because then you can set your own schedule. If you don't want to
That's
work on Fridays, you just know Monday through Thursday, I better get my 40 hours in to cover the 8 that I'm gone on Friday. But you don't have to put in a notice, hey, boss, I want to take this Friday off. So there is something to that. The other thing I think people need to factor in when they're starting a business, your wife, Sarah, you've got to get spouse and or family buy-in to this. And how easy was that to do for you?
100%. My wife Sarah, she is. I don't care what anybody else says. She's by and far the world's best wife,
Good.
and my best friend. And she has been nothing but a supporter of me and my endeavors and so forth. Incredibly supportive in the startup phases, and even as time goes on, she knows that you're, as a business owner, you're not necessarily 9 to 5 every day,
Mm.
as much as sometimes you'd like to be, and sometimes, yeah, you do plan to take Friday off, but that just doesn't happen. So but I wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's just how it would be. And I owe her a lot. So
Yeah. And so, folks, if you're thinking about starting a business, we applaud you. We'll go through a number of things that you need to have in place, but you better have the support of your family, namely your spouse, a partner,
yeah.
whoever, because they're in it as well. This small business ownership is your life. You file your taxes that way as a small business owner and your life, and that's how you're known. All that on all official papers and everything. If your business goes under, there's an accident, they come for your house. There's a number of things that are involved in being a small business owner. But if you enjoy taking a calculated risk, this is something worth looking at. Did I phrase that correctly?
I think you did. I think you did. There's a lot of things to think about. And I think one of the things I often think about that I tell anybody who was entertaining getting out on their own and starting their own business is it's going to be great, right? Number one, it's going to be the greatest thing you've ever done. However, I would also say in the same breath, you're going to want to become comfortable with being uncomfortable in certain ways, right? And getting out of that box. Because to your point, yeah, you're filing taxes differently, right? There's certifications to do this, and there's paperwork that needs to be filed over here, and it's quite a learning adventure as well. That seems like a very tall mountain to try climbing, but you climb it and you go step by step, and you get all that knowledge under your belt, and you'll do things when you start your business that 2 years in, 3 years in, you won't do again. You'll make mistakes. You'll figure out how to do things better. But that's really the learning experience.
Yep. So let's go back to the first week and the first month.
Yeah.
What kind of went as you expected, and what popped up is like, ooh, I better read up on that.
So this is kind of where BNI came in. So first week, obviously when you say, okay, here's day one, you're doing the things that you need to do. For me, that was a lot of process. It was website. It was getting a lot of parts in place, and so forth. And then you get all that done, and it's like, okay, now I'm done. And then you think, well, now I just need to make the phone ring, right? Now I need business, right? And that's the big part. So for me, that's kind of where BNI came in, and I literally, and I'll remember this day quite a while. We had moved to Wilmington, and I literally sat up on the side of my bed one morning when I was getting up, and I said to myself, I don't know anybody here in town. Like I don't know anyone. I go through my days, and I've this, that, and the other, and that's where I really started to entertain what like the power of networking could do, right? And getting out and meeting people and forming relationships over time and so forth. And that's where BNI has been incredibly helpful to me. Met some great friends, joined the Rainmakers chapter, and it's certainly been great for my business, but also more importantly, it's been great for me in terms of surrounding myself with successful people, getting different points of views on things, and made some great buddies along the way. So that's kind of where my first week was.
Yeah, I get asked occasionally from people who are getting ready to go out on their own. It's like, well, what's one of the first things I should do? Said, you need to be ready to tell everybody you're open for business, because you can't put up a website. Wow, look at that. People are going to start calling. No, they still don't know you're open for business. They don't even know about your business. So you better have a plan to start telling people, whether it's networking or social media posts or whatever, that, hey, I Cre8 content services is open for business.
Yeah, no, it's and I trust me that I remember that second week, I did a search for networking events in and around the area, and of course a long list came up, and I hit them all, and it was exhausting. Yeah, to be honest, it was exhausting.
Yes,
it was it was exhausting, and but that's what I'd recommend to anybody who's in that phase of like, hey, I have to get my name out. See what's out there, right? Go to different groups, check out different functions, right? Find out what's right for you, because that's going to be a little different for everybody. In my case, it turned out that BNI was a big part of that. But yeah, you have to see what's out there and really throw yourself 100% in.
And was there an event or something that happened, a client you got that told you, okay, I think this is going to work?
With BNI?
No, with the business.
Oh, with the business?
Yeah.
I'd probably say I've got a friend down in South Florida who has a digital marketing company very much like mine. In fact, we used to work together for years and years. He went off on his own long time ago, and he became a huge fan of networking events, networking in general, and so forth. Joined BNI, all these things. So we've always kept a good relationship, kept in touch, and he's always talking about just this event and that event, and so I really kind of credit him to keeping that idea. That's how he grew his business. And say, like, it's if I'll say, if he can do it, I can do it. But that's kind of the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you put yourself out there and you start doing that, you're not going to get business to the first meeting that you go to, right? It's a time investment. It's a long-term strategy. You build relationships, you might do work for people, and then you start getting slowly but surely referred out if you're doing great work and you're surpassing expectations. And then it's I often equate it to it's like a 401k, right? It keeps earning money and earning money over time. And that's the same kind of thing that networking does, and building those relationships.
With all the vehicles and platforms and all that you've looked to get your word out, whether it's networking or social media or interactive website, anything like that, what have you learned that has helped your business?
Um, in terms of my business, I'd probably say the number one thing that, and again, this is kind of one of those things that I saw that wasn't necessarily working very well, or could be improved in a lot of cases with people that are in my business, is um, communication and customer service, right? That is one of the biggest things that I think in my business has made a difference. We've got a lot of clients. However, it's a very personalized experience at the same time, right? In my business, it's very easy to, as you grow, you hire people that are younger, less experienced, things like that, and that clients pay for knowledge, right? They pay for experience, things like that. So, really being able to, in my business, customize that spirit experience through great communication, through my 25 years of doing this all around the country. Those are really the things that I think makes us a little different. And obviously that results in our online reputation increasing, and from a digital perspective. And that's I think what has helped us the most.
All right, so you're in the tech world to a point with digital marketing, and you're certainly in a creative world. So would you describe yourself as more of a techie or a creator?
I'm more of a, gosh, that's a great question. I guess I'm someplace in between. I wouldn't say hey, listen, I know I'm not the techiest person in the world. Do I get it? Does it make sense? Can I do it? 100% I can. But that's, also that's why there are people out there that exist, and you always want to surround yourself with people that pick up any sort of deficit that you might have in an area, right? You always surround yourself with smarter people, as they say, than you. I'd probably say I from a creative standpoint, that to me, that's always been the fun part, right? That's the fun part, right? You see something, and it's a fence company, and let's go put a sign outside that says we nailed it. Are you ready to get nailed? Stuff like that. So the creative is important, but I often think in my business there's a lack of talking to the right person, as I mentioned earlier, right? It's delivering the right creative messaging that makes you pick that phone up, right, to where you are, in that buying cycle. And oftentimes, with a lot of home service clients, oftentimes that customer is in a, hey, they need something done now, right? Something's either broken, or I need to get a fence, or I need to get a roof, or a plumbing, whatever it is. And so you really have to understand the mindset of that customer for that client, and what they want to hear, so that not only are they finding you, they're finding you, and you're addressing what their issue is right off the bat. So it's very easy for them.
All right. So when we drive down the road every day, we see a fair number of cars with some sort of decal or a full body wrap on it. Walk me through, because I've seen nice wraps. I've seen wraps that have way too much information, And then I've seen on the back of the car, either on the usually on the window or the back of a truck, the company name and the phone number.
Mm-hmm.
So give us some tips on each of those and the best way mobily how to get a message across.
Well, I think in that scenario you just described, the phone number and the back window with the phone number and uh, the logo or the name of the business is obviously critical. It's again, this goes back to keep it simple, stupid. I too have seen some wraps on vehicles, and there's nothing wrong with getting your vehicle wrapped. I've seen
Mhm.
some really cool looking vehicles, and you know who that business is because you've seen that look, that brand in a lot of different other places and so forth. But keep it simple. Think about when you're sitting at a stoplight, right? There's somebody sitting next to you. There's somebody sitting, it's typically on one of your two sides. So you want a clear message to get in front of that person, right? And in my opinion, you're sitting in a car, so you don't have a lot of time to do that. So less is more, right? Your company name, your phone number. Somebody can grab their phone and snap a picture or what have you. But as far as the design goes, listen, the question of your design obviously is going to depend a lot on the branding you already have in place for your business. Is your business been in business for decades upon decades, and everybody already knows what it is, and that's your van? So by all means, go wild with it, but keep it simple. Wrap it, do a neat looking wrap, but make sure just your information is very big and accessible to the cars around it. Don't make sure it's not too small. I've seen several wraps where the phone number is only about a foot long, and in the context of the side of a van, a foot long phone number is incredibly small, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that's keep it. Sometimes again, less is more, but that's also, there's a way to have a really cool look, have all your branding, your colors, and a neat messaging without, putting 5 pounds of X into a 2 pound bag.
Yeah.
So keep it simple.
If I am starting a business on Monday, do I need from a social or an internet presence, social presence, whatever you want to call that? Do I have to have a website?
Yeah, 100%. Your digital marketing, that is you being found online, everything stems through your website. Uh, the mindset of a lot of small businesses, especially those that are starting out, is that if I build a website, I'm good, right? That's it. If I build it, they will come. That is just not the case. So that is your first step as a business: build a website. But then also, consider when you're building that website, it needs to be built in such a way that it's going to be found in search, right?
Mm.
If no one can find your website or find that website coming up in a search, well, then why have it unless it's just something you really want to show to your relatives at Christmas. Um, so building a website is absolutely key, but building it from a technical standpoint, I always say is more important, so that organically you can start to be found for particular searches, ensuring that the content is correct on that, keyword optimized content, depending on what your goals are and your businesses are. Um, Keyword rankings are easy for any
Yeah.
business owner to really figure out what the kind of keywords you want to have on your site, and then, like I said, building it from a technical standpoint. But that's day one stuff. That comes because any sort of other digital marketing you do is going to ultimately lead back to that from a search perspective, right? It's you're going to have links going to it, links coming from it, your Facebook, Instagram, online directories, all of those link back to your website. Um, so it's ground zero for
And
for
our another tip we're going to pass along here, and I believe I'm correct in this, is your Facebook page does not count as a website.
That is not a website. That is not a
Yet
website.
you hear that, don't you?
Yeah, it's not a website. Here's something a lot of people don't realize is that your Facebook page and your Instagram page, those are directories. Those are online directories, just like Yelp is an online directory, just like MapQuest is an online directory. Those are pages that have your NAP information, right? Your name, address, phone number, and your URL on them. Facebook, for example, just happens to be a directory that's a social post, right? You post on there. Now, with that being said, it's certainly important to have those, right? From a social proof standpoint, you want to have engaging content going out there, because in this day and age, what do people do, right? They look at your website,
Mm-hmm.
they look at your, say, Facebook page or your Instagram page, and then, and why are they doing that? They want to see what you're talking about. Have you posted to it? Is it relevant? Do you look like you know what you're talking about? What's your company about, right? What's your, kind of what's your vibe, if you will?
Yeah.
So social media is certainly important, and for every business owner, the most, besides possibly your website, the most underutilized digital property and arguably one of absolutely the most important alongside your website is your Google My Business, or your Google business profile, as they call it now. That is absolutely something you should spend just a ton of time initially optimizing, and then tweaking out on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and really growing that, because that's, we both have done a search for something, and then you hit the click to call. Your Google My Business, your Google business profile is super critical.
Yeah, and if we don't think Google runs that world, we're sadly mistaken and missing out. So if they want you to have all your words connecting, your keywords connecting in your description on your website, in your blog,
Yep.
in your whatever,
Yep.
you better make that happen.
It is a tangled web, Mike. It is a tangled web. It's not good enough, and I tell people this. It is, and I say this with all due respect, but it is not good enough to just do one thing and get found locally. If you're a business, you have to do a lot of things, and they all have to intertwine and be connected and have a strategy to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results that you'll need.
Yep, I have long contended on day -1 for your business. You should outsource two things: your bookkeeping and your social media, because you won't be consistent at either one of those over time.
No, you won't, and especially the accounting. You don't want that to drop off.
No, no.
Um, and yeah, you're 100% right. A lot of businesses come out of the gate, and they're posting to various social media pages, and they're doing updates on this. And then if you were to graph that, if you were to put that on a chart, it's just going to do this over time. And why does that happen? That happens because there's a lot of things going on in your world, right? There's, if you start getting business and it's just you have to go and deal with that business and that client and that customer, right? So you only have so much time and bandwidth. But to keep those calls coming in, those leads coming in, it has to be a consistent month in, month out effort for your business from a local search standpoint.
So one of my favorite questions on the show here for my married guests is, your wife's name is Sarah.
Yeah.
I would like to know how you two met, and do you both tell the story the same way?
We do.
And most men say that, Scott. I just want to tell you, most men think them and their wives tell the story the same way.
Yeah, well, gosh, we believe it or not, we met online.
Nice.
We did, and which was great, and I always think about that too. That I would have, and hey, listen, online dating, it's a whole thing, but I would have never, if it hadn't been for that, I would have never met her. Right? She just wasn't in my normal day to day of work, gym, home, stuff like that. So I would have never met her. We, if memory serves, I think first chatted on a Saturday mid-afternoon, and we met out later that evening. If you ask her, what she will say, I'm pretty confident, is we chatted that day, we met out that evening, and then I didn't call her for a week.
Ooh.
And that's true. And that's her she would be 100% correct. And our second date was actually, I called her, rang her up on Friday, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to the shooting range. You want to go?" And she's like, "Yeah." So our second date was actually around weapons. So
okay.
I don't know, but that was fun, and that's how we met.
All right. So on her online profile, and my wife and I met way before the internet was even in, probably talked about much. So, and I'm fascinated by that, and it's legit. I think two of the last three guests I've had on the show met their spouse online. So,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
was it about her profile that you first looked at before you talked to her, made you click, or whatever you had to do to connect?
Well, she had just moved down here from Wisconsin, where she was working up at the time, and I mean, I'm a visual person too. She was very, I thought she was very attractive. So that's certainly a reason I clicked. To tell you any different, that would be not
Mhm.
accurate. But her profile, she seemed very down to earth and just a kind of a good person. And we met. You could absolutely tell that when we met later that day. And she to this day is. So yeah,
So,
that's.
so where was the first date?
Well, I was living in South Florida at the time, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So first date was there was a little cafe down at the pier. So a little place called Lauderdale by the Sea,
Mhm.
really quaint little area, and there was a little cafe there, and we met at the little cafe outside the pier, and just spent some time there, that evening, and then I didn't call for a week.
Why? Why, Scott?
Well, God, I was working. This is probably an excuse, but probably again, she would say it's very accurate. Is I was probably working about 16 hours a day,
All right.
and for somebody else at the
Mm-hmm.
time, and also too putting myself under a tremendous amount of stress in the position I had at the time. And she likes to remind me, and she's 100% right when she says she saved my life
Mm-hmm.
from having a heart attack when I was, in my 30s. So by helping me slow down and being able to manage, manage work and personal, a little
Yep.
differently.
Now, one day on my trips down to Wilmington, I hope to meet Sarah. And by the way, for the record, she spells the name correctly. So,
That's
my daughter-in-law is with the H, so it's like, yeah, that's how you do it. So, I do. I hope I get to meet her, and
yeah.
I want to ask her in the week that you didn't call her, the conversation she was having with her friends about this guy I
Yeah.
met. He won't call me.
Yeah, I'm afraid to ask that question, Mike, myself. So you're more than welcome to.
Oh, I will. I will.
Yeah, it all worked out, and I couldn't imagine my life
Yep.
without her. So
Yeah, same way, man. I saw my wife before I talked to her, and we're coming up on 39 years, and I feel the same
wow,
way.
congratulations.
Yep, feel the same way. So, all right, so let's talk about guns in a good way, shooting, right? So you were a nationally ranked competitive marksman for 5 years, right?
Yeah, did a lot of
Yep.
long range shooting. Started in South Florida. Target shooting is just a ton of fun, and it takes a lot of practice, a lot of skill. It just takes a lot of time. It's a big time investment, but I started shooting. I was lucky enough to meet two gentlemen who were ex-national team members,
Mhm.
super shooters, and I was lucky enough to one offered to coach me for a while, so we did that. Uh, but um, um, but yeah, a lot of 1,000 yard competitions, 600 yard competitions, stuff like that. And it's a great group of people. A lot of it's a lot of lawyers, doctors, and business owners that are out there because it's unfortunately it's you get to a certain point, it's not the cheapest sport to do. However, you end up surrounding yourself with a lot of great people, and it's a great sport if you enjoy the math behind
Mhm.
things, and really you just like competing. You
All
know.
right. So one of my questions on that sport, and I only watch it when it's usually the biathlon and the Olympics. You ski some, you shoot some. Okay, but if you're shooting from 1,000 yards, you said 1,000 yards away,
Yeah.
you have to be some level of calm. How do you get down to that point and get ready to pull the trigger?
A lot of practice.
Right.
I mean, for probably about a good 2 years, I laid on my stomach
Yep.
for several hours each day shooting, and just practicing. You're a golfer. It's very much like golf. If you get to the point where your golf swing is in perfect mechanical working order, you'll hit the same shot every time. Same kind of thing with that, right? You're taking your body out of it to where you're just gently pulling that trigger, watching breathing, watching your mechanics. There's a lot of similarities between golf and target
Mm,
shooting.
yeah.
More than you'd think. Just like if you don't play golf for 3, 4 months, you get back and you're all rusty, right? You forgot your swing, same kind of thing. Yeah, the most difficult thing, quite frankly, learning to read the wind.
Yep.
Is the most, because at 1,000 yards you're shooting at a target that's the X, meaning the bullseye, is about 10 inches, right,
Wow.
at 10 football fields. So really being able to read the wind is super, super important with that. And then, of course, having the right, hand loads
Mm.
and things like that to be able to accomplish that. But it's great. I'm a big supporter of the shooting sports.
Yeah, a lot of people, once they found out math was involved, probably picked another sport, right?
Not too much math. It's easy math, but it's great, especially if you're shooting prone. You just lay on your belly,
Yep.
so you're just laying on your belly. So it's not a super active sport. Although I guarantee you, the first time you do it, you'll get up and you'll be sore the next day from laying on your belly.
Oh, I bet. Yep. I bet. So, all right. So let's help some future business owners here with a couple of tips of to do and not to do. The biggest mistake, let's go to solopreneurs. They start like you, just started a business on your own. You knew that world, but what's the first mistake we make about anything online?
Um, the biggest mistake, like I mentioned earlier, is saying I'm going to build a website and now I'm good,
Good.
right? And now I'm done, right? Or I'm going to then start a Facebook page and I'm just going to post to that every once in a while and my phone will ring. Um, takes a lot more. It takes a lot more than that. Especially if those are things you have to do and have to partake in on a regular basis. But I'd also say that the biggest mistake is also not getting out to meet people, right, and put your
Mhm.
name out there however you can. Just shaking hands and dropping business cards and giving one to whoever you can. So those are the two biggest mistakes. It's not like Field of Dreams, right? You can't just build
Yeah.
it and they'll come. So
Yeah. Planning for the length of time where you won't cash a paycheck. How long do you plan for that?
Uh, I'd certainly have. I mean, I think, yeah, the average person certainly needs about at least a 6 month reserve of cash on hand, kind of thing, to be able to do that. Some businesses, some businesses are going to go faster than others. Completely depends on your industry. I think, my business took off pretty squarely. I had a lot of contacts from my previous life and so forth that I was, able to utilize and build upon and things like that. But I think a good 6 months makes sense. It'll happen. Don't stress yourself out. It'll work, but you have to put in the time to do it. Try to get some sleep at night. Don't stay up thinking about it. You'll drive yourself crazy. Easier said than done.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
uh,
and the money, the properly funded is big because if you're stressing each month to pay your bills, you're going to make wrong decisions. You're a painter, and I call you to paint one room, you're going to take it because you need the 180 bucks or whatever they charge, and you never get around. You don't spend the time on, I just want to paint full houses. I'm so busy painting one rooms because I got to pay the rent that I haven't had a chance to grow. So that's back to your point. When you're fully funded, you can focus on the full house paint, right?
Yeah, I think you can focus on the full house paint, but at the same time, depending on, I think also too, depending on what your situation is, there might be times where you need to take that one.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, but not full time. Yeah.
Right. So you can't be picky and choosy sometimes about the types of projects or
Mhm.
business that you get. especially when you're starting out, because remember, you're building even if you're just painting that one room, you need to do the best one room paint job you can, because you can take that out and show people that room and get 2 rooms and full houses and, a whole subdivision ultimately.
Yep.
So, it's, be prepared to, there's a reality to it, right? You have expenses as a business. You need revenue to offset those expenses. So, sometimes when you're starting, I think you do have to, you sometimes have to take what you get as long as it's in your wheelhouse to do. You can't want to go to the Super Bowl right away.
or go skiing. Yeah, if you start your business in January, I wouldn't plan on going skiing February 1st just yet. So one last thing, let's focus in on the content, which is what you're built on. And folks, here's another reason why you need to call pros like Scott. We've been putting his number up there. I need to make a list of all the content about my business and my industry and what I do, correct? What's on that list?
Yeah. So really, with the types of businesses that we primarily deal with, it's pretty straightforward what they do, right? If they're a home builder, well, they build homes, right? But it's really one of the things that we do from a content perspective is we sit down with clients and do what equates to a few-hour workshop where we really kind of flush out what their main slices of client pie, if you will, look like, right? If you were to think about all of the clients you've had in your life, you can separate that into 3 or 4 people. We develop what are often called customer personas or customer targets, because each one of those people might have a completely different background, whether it's a socioeconomic background. They have different aspirations and needs. Somebody living here in North Carolina on the beach is going to have a completely different life with different needs than maybe somebody living way out in the country, right? So we want to flush all those people out to really thinking about what is the potential customer doing? How are they spending their time? What kind of medias are they intaking? What do they want to hear? What do they need to hear? What are they afraid of? So if you understand all those things and really give a lot of thought to that, then you can start integrating that into your messaging. Now that's over here, right? But what's over here is understanding from an SEO perspective, what are people searching for? And that's where I think some professional help can come in, because whatever that is, you then need the tools to be able to get found. Because if people can't find you, right, through an optimized website, through social, through directories, through reputation management, all of those things, if people can't find you, it doesn't really matter what you're saying, right? Because no one's going to hear it anyway, right? So getting found is the first key, but getting found by that right person is certainly important.
Very good. All right, folks. We've been putting Scott's phone number on the screen here during the show. Like I've told you, and I'm not kidding. You need to outsource your bookkeeping and your social media / creative stuff, because most of us aren't good at either, and more importantly, we're not consistent at either. But Scott, we appreciate it. The tips, wonderful. The stories. Can't wait to meet Sarah. I want to find out what her and her friends talked about in that week that didn't cost you a lifetime. So
Me too. Let me know.
I will. All right, Scott, thanks for being on the show. We will see everybody next time on Capital to the Coast BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.